You didn't believe you'd get here. Nobody believes it. It's always someone else, never you. But now the van stops. The door opens, and you see for the first time those bars. Not on a screen, not in a documentary, right there in front of you, in cold steel and real concrete. A guard shouts your name, not your name, your number. And at that exact moment, you understand that you've ceased to be a person and have become a unit within a system that existed before you were born and will continue to function long after you leave, if you ever leave. Welcome to the United States Federal Prison System. Level 1, Processing. You arrive in handcuffs with a plastic bag containing everything the system allowed you to bring. A photo maybe, a document, nothing more. The process begins with silence. Not quiet silence, the silence of someone who has absolute power over you and doesn't need to prove it. They take your clothes, they take your name, they take your history. In exchange, they give you a number, a sand-colored or faded blue uniform, and a bed in a block that will be your home for months, years, maybe decades. You learn your first lesson here. Nobody explains anything to you. The rules aren't written on the wall. They're written in the behavior of those who survived. You observe. You remain silent. You absorb. Your responsibilities at this stage are simple. Don't draw attention to yourself. Don't show weakness. Don't show strength. Being invisible is an art, and you don't know how to do it yet. What do you get? A bed. A tray of food 3 times a day. The illusion that behaving well will change anything. What do you lose? Everything that defined who you were on the outside. Privacy, autonomy, the right to decide when to sleep, when to eat, when to move. The risk here is ignorance. You don't know who the people around you are. You don't know which blocks are controlled by whom. You don't know which looks mean threat and which mean curiosity. Misreading this could cost you dearly in the first month. To get out of this level, you need only one thing: to survive the initial shock without destroying yourself. Level 2, the Royal Orientation. A few weeks go by, you begin to see the invisible structure that governs everything. Federal prisons have official rules, those from the manual that nobody read, and they have real rules, the ones that determine who eats first, who controls which table in the cafeteria, who has access to the phone during prime time, who sleeps undisturbed. You begin to understand that the space is divided, not by physical bars, but by alignments, race, region of origin, affiliations that existed before imprisonment. All of this is replicated here with a brutal clarity that the outside world tries to hide behind rhetoric. Here, nobody hides anything. You need to make a decision you never imagined you'd have to make. Who do you align yourself with? Being alone seems noble, but it's social suicide. And in the right environment, suicide precedes physical suicide. Your responsibilities now include a basic loyalty. You will sit in the proper place. You greet those you should greet. You avoid crossing into other people's territory without explicit permission. What do you learn? That prison is a city, with an economy, politics, diplomacy, and violence as the last resort for conflict resolution, just like any other city, only without the veneer that society on the outside uses to pretend it's different. What do you gain? Relative protection, information, the beginning of a reputation. What do you lose? Neutrality. Once you take a stand, you have enemies you never chose. The risk now is that you made the wrong choice. If you aligned yourself with the wrong group, you'll find out the hard way. To move up, you need to demonstrate your usefulness. Every system wants to know, what do you have? What can you do? What can you offer? Level 3. The parallel economy. You discovered that within these walls there's a market. Discreet, efficient, and ruthless. Instant ramen is currency. Postage stamps have value. Services have a price. From a tattoo done with an improvised needle to information about when a specific guard will change shifts. And you, over time, have found your place in this value chain. Perhaps you know how to write letters to family members who are illiterate, legal petitions, documents. Perhaps you have connections on the outside that allow certain things to get through in ways the official system didn't foresee. Perhaps you've simply developed the ability to show up at the right time with the right information. Your responsibilities now include discernment, knowing what to touch and what not to touch, knowing who to transact with and who to never do business with, no matter the price. What do you learn? That the guards are not a monolithic force. There are those who look ahead, those who deliberately look the other way, and those who participate discreetly, calculatingly. They participate. What do you gain? Resources, relative comfort, an extra mattress perhaps, priority access to something that seemed impossible weeks ago. What do you lose? The possibility of getting out of this without a record. Each transaction is a thread that connects you deeper into the web. The risk here is visibility. Management has informants. Every group has informants. The question isn't whether someone is watching you, it's when they'll decide that watching you isn't enough anymore. To move up, you need someone above you to decide that you're worth more as an ally than as a disposable resource. Level 4. Costly trust. Someone chose you, not with words, with a gesture, an invitation to be present in a conversation you shouldn't be in, a task given to you without explanation, only with the silent expectation that it would be done correctly. You've entered a tighter circle. Here, people have known each other for years. Some have shared judgments. Some have family on the outside, who cross paths even before prison. Loyalty isn't declared, it's tested. Your responsibilities now are one of execution and silence. You do what needs to be done. You don't ask why. You don't comment. You don't theorize aloud. Discretion is not a virtue here. It's the bare minimum requirement for existence. What do you learn? That power doesn't shout. Power whispers. And sometimes power says absolutely nothing, and yet everyone in the room knows exactly what is being communicated. What do you gain? Status. Real protection. The feeling for the first time that you're not just another number in that system. What do you lose? The easy way out. The deeper you go, the higher the price becomes to try to turn back. The risk now is loyalty being tested in the worst way. Sooner or later, someone will need to know if you break under pressure. That pressure will come. To move up, you'll have to pass this test, and you'll have to pass it without showing that you passed. Level 5. Management. You are now in charge of coordination, not with a title, not with a position, but when you speak, people adjust their behavior. When you enter a space, the space changes slightly, like the atmospheric pressure before a storm. You manage flows. You know who owes what to whom. You know where the tensions are before they become conflicts. You anticipate, mediate, and when necessary, you decide. Your responsibilities now include maintaining balance, because imbalance attracts attention, and attention, in this context, is always dangerous. It comes from management, it comes from rival groups, it comes from within the group itself when someone starts questioning positions. What do you learn? That the biggest enemy of those in the middle isn't the official system. It's the ambition of those right below you. You were that person once. What do you gain? A form of power that transcends walls, connections that exist outside, influence over processes that affect the lives of people both inside and outside simultaneously. What do you lose? Sleep, the ability to fully trust anyone, and gradually, the distinction between who you were before and who you have become. The risk here is systemic. You are too visible to be ignored, but not protected enough to be untouchable. You exist in a zone of maximum vulnerability, recognized but still reachable. To rise, you'll have to eliminate or neutralize someone. Not necessarily through violence, but definitively. You've reached the pinnacle of what's possible within those walls. At this stage, you don't do anything directly. Everything happens in layers. You're protected by distance and loyalty bought with years of careful investment. Management knows who you are. Some know too well, but proving it is another story. The formal system and the real system coexist in a calculated tension that benefits everyone who is high enough up. You have access to information about transfers before they happen, to channels that cross the walls without the metal detectors registering anything, to decisions that affect entire blocks, schedules, punishments, privileges. For the first time, you feel in control. And that is precisely the most dangerous illusion that this system produces, because the system didn't give you power. The system lent you a position. And systems don't lend, they invest, observe, and when the return starts to look less than the holding risk, they liquidate the asset. Something changed. An unexpected transfer of someone close. A visit that didn't happen. A message that never arrived. Small signs that individually seem like chance. Together, they form a pattern that you recognize too late. The siege doesn't come from one direction. It comes from all of them at the same time. An informant, someone you protected, someone you chose, someone you elevated, passed on enough information for the internal investigation to build a picture. Not a perfect picture, but enough. And enough, in this system, is all that needs to be. There's a transfer announced. You're going to a different state, to a maximum security unit, where isolation isn't punishment, it's standard procedure, where the networks you've built over the years don't reach, where you start from scratch, but this time without the energy, without the resources, and without the transferable reputation that got you here. Betrayal doesn't have a clean face. Perhaps it was someone who needed a reduced sentence. Perhaps it was someone pressured by family. Perhaps, and this is the most gnawing possibility, it was someone who simply calculated that betrayal was more advantageous than loyalty. You have a final decision to make. React, which would confirm everything they need to confirm. Or absorb, which means accepting that the system won this round. You absorb it, not out of weakness, out of a belated realization that the reaction is part of the script they've already written for you. The van leaves early in the morning. You look through the barred window at the courtyard that was your territory for years. Someone else is already in your place. It's not you, it's the position. The position always finds someone to fill it. The block continues to function. Transactions continue. The balance of power will adjust for a few weeks. There will be tension, perhaps violence, and then it will stabilize again. As it always has. As it always will. The system doesn't depend on you. It never has. For a time, you were an efficient cog in a machine that existed for decades before you walked through that door, and that will continue to exist for decades after your number is erased from the active records. The question that remains, and that will stay with you for a long time, in whatever cell they put you, is not what you did wrong. It's what you would have done differently knowing what you know now. And the honest answer, if you're being honest with yourself for the first time in years, is probably nothing. Because the system wasn't designed to be defeated from within. It was designed to convince you that it was possible.